But basically, fear of letting go of mental positions creates a paradigm lock. I've talked about paradigm lock. See my older episode called How Paradigms Work, I believe it's called. Important one. I talk about the concept of paradigm lock. Paradigm lock basically just means that you have a certain paradigm or a certain entire worldview or system of how you see the world. And then every worldview has a sort of a locking mechanism that locks you into that worldview. The worldview itself, think of the worldview itself as almost like a survival organism. For it to survive, it has to lock itself in and maintain its survival. The way it does that is sort of by infecting your mind and then instilling you with fear that if you leave this worldview, that something bad is going to happen to you. This is actually a classic tactic that cult leaders use, is that they will program new members into the cult. They will use mind control techniques to instill deep fear of how terrible their life will be if they leave the cult. And in this way, they're able to sort of blackmail and hold cult members hostage because they've spent months programming them with ideas like, well, if you leave this cult, then you're going to lose your family, you're going to lose your spouse, you're going to lose opportunities for sex, you're going to lose your income, you're going to lose everybody who loves you, you're going to lose all your friends, you're going to lose everything, basically. Your whole life will be so bad that you'll want to kill yourself. And then, of course, how can you leave once your mind has been programmed with all that fear? And that's the same sort of dynamic. By the way, see my 2-part series called Cult Psychology, which is really profound, goes into a lot of these sneaky tactics that cults use. And also part 2 talks about how it applies to more generally to outside of traditional cults and into more mainstream society. Because cult psychology is not limited to only cults, which is sort of a perfect segue here because, see, every worldview, in a sense, uses some form of sneaky cult psychology to hold you hostage to it. For example, if you're born in an Islamic country, you're going to be programmed with the Islamic worldview, the Islamic paradigm. And you know, part of that paradigm is the fear of going to hell if you ever question the paradigm, or if you ever dare to question Allah, or if you ever dare to question Muhammad, or if you ever dare to leave Islam. See? Every worldview tries to, not every, there are exceptions. There are some worldviews that are better than others, so I don't want to paint too broad of a brush here, but most worldviews, what they do is they have a locking mechanism that locks you in with fear, that closes your mind down. Religion is guilty of this, but science is also guilty of this. Logic is guilty of this. The mainstream culture is guilty of this. Capitalism is guilty of this. Even the notion of sanity is guilty of this. See, what you consider sanity is actually a worldview, a sort of a paradigm that you're locked into, and to venture outside of the norms of what you would consider sane and others around you in your culture consider sane, that scares you, it terrifies you. What would your family think of you if you went beyond the boundary of sanity? What would you think of yourself if you went beyond the boundary of sanity? See, you're going to be afraid, and that locks you into whatever paradigm you call sanity. But what is sanity? Sanity is whatever culture tells you it is. So, in order to really free your mind and to be able to go to the deepest levels of understanding, you have to be able to bust through these paradigm locks, which first means you have to be able to recognize their structure, see them, become aware enough of them. Then you have to be willing to jump between different paradigms, not get attached to any one of them, and you have to be willing to call the bluff of the paradigm. See, the paradigm's bluff is that it's telling you that, hey, if you leave Islam, you're gonna suffer in hell. If you question science, then you're going to become some sort of fringe lunatic and you're going to lose your professorship. If you question logic, you're going to become some illogical nutcase conspiracy theorist. If you question sanity, you're going to end up in a mental asylum. If you question capitalism, you're going to become some sort of communist, radical. And if you question mainstream culture, then you're going to become some weirdo and nobody's going to marry you or want to be friends with you, whatever. Fear. And you have to say, oh yeah, I call your fucking bluff. I call your bluff. Show me what you got. Let me challenge religion. Let me challenge science. Let me challenge logic. Let me challenge the mainstream. Let me challenge capitalism. Let me challenge sanity. And let me see where it leads me. And that comes with open-mindedness. And how many people are willing to do that? Very, very few.